To order the Town of Los Gatos Planning Commission meeting of January 28th. I will now call the roll. Commissioner Mayer.
Here.
Commissioner Burnett. Here. Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Vice Chair Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Sorty.
Here.
Commissioner Stump.
Here.
And I am here as well. Please stand, if you can, and join Commissioner Burnett in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll just keep reading. Thank you. As the Planning Commission conducts the meeting this evening, we encourage active participation by the public, which is essential to democracy and the important work of the Planning Commission. Public input is very much welcomed and always considered. The public can participate in a couple ways. Prior to a meeting, written comments about agenda items may be submitted to staff. During the meeting, there are two opportunities for members of the public to participate. First, during the verbal communications period, an individual may speak on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. And second, during the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting, any member of the public may speak about an agenda item. You'll be advised of times when you're called to speak. And if you do wish to address the commission tonight, please fill out a speaker card and hand it over to staff so that we can call you up. You can also raise your hand on Zoom if you are joining us that way. I do ask that you print your name with phonetic spelling to help me out. And when you are called to speak, please come up to the podium, speak directly into the microphone as this meeting is being recorded. State your name for the record and indicate that you are speaking anonymously, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. We will now begin the verbal communications portion of the meeting in which members of the public are invited to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda of tonight's meeting. I have two cards. The first is Gus Hu. Please remember you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Okay. Gus Hu, I'm anonymous. I sent you in something, and I see that you got a new chairperson. You probably, call her Sleeping Beauty, and you guys probably played the little duck, duck, goose, and you ran around. And you couldn't catch her, but because I like to start out with a little sense of humor. I think you have to have planning for what's going on with the Project 2025. I brought this up. The minute 42 second, nobody saw it, but some people did. That was the quick thing. In the paper, the town is going to consider raising taxes. That's gonna be a big deal. Most people don't really like their taxes raised, and you're in trouble with legally, I think, because now everybody else in California could say, "Hey, you're breaking the glass ceiling," going beyond that. So you got to plan for that. I really want to talk about what happened on first, the flag raising priorities is not a big thing, the prideful thing. But what I'm trying to do is the medical, water bills, medical bills are going up. I paid Webley, I was getting it for free. Now I have to pay $1,618.82. It's just outrageous. The plan, phase 2, North 40, you guys got played. The public didn't get, it wasn't publicized. I want to correct that. I said 10 of 200, 550, it should be 255. And that came out to 4%. And what happened, what I saw what happened was when the questions were going back and forth, you got played by because I know some shopping center stuff. I was in when I was younger. I married into a shopping center and a lot of this legal stuff, but they are planning for $250 million, and like the parking lot space was required 922 parking spaces and you gave in at 768. You got played because they didn't have to. All they had to do is submit things, and they can change whatever records they want. And that's how you got played in a 17%. 17%. Thanks for. I wish I had more time. I knew I didn't, but football, you're not ready for that either. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? All right. The next speaker card I have is for Jim Ratcliffe. You've got 3 minutes.
Okay. So hi, I'm Jim Ratcliffe. I'm the neighbor on Farley Road, the direct neighbor of the West Farley Muslim Association. I'm on the exit driveway. And so I wanted to speak about the WVMA's modification of their CUP. So for the last 2 years, we've been communicating with the town to try to get some traction on what we can do with the traffic and the unsafe volume of cars during Ramadan. And Ramadan's approaching in about 3 weeks, and we have no closure on this matter, and it's very scary because Ramadan is a very busy time on our street, and I live on a portion of Farley that does not have any sidewalks, and there's limited street lights. So cars park on both sides of the street, and so that narrows the street and the thoroughfare. And so if you can picture 1,000 cars a night with families and people walking down the street, that is not a safe environment. It's, to give you a visual, Festival of Lights on Blossom Hill Road, that is the kind of scene it is in this residential street. And they have Los Gatos police, going through the traffic and making it, very safe. This is that kind of volume on a residential street with just minimal space. So what I'm asking for the town is, in this upcoming Ramadan, if we could have the town monitor the traffic and hopefully help mitigate some of the traffic flow, because it's just a very unsafe environment. If someone had a medical emergency or in the mosque or on the street of Farley, I don't think an emergency vehicle could get down Farley Road to assist them. So I'm asking for that, and we just love a little closure on this matter, because it's been 2 years and it's a safety thing. Our neighborhood is unsafe. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? Do you mind coming back to the podium? There actually are a couple questions for you. Commissioner Thomas.
Hi, thank you for voicing your concerns. When you say that it's a safety concern, you mentioned the emergency vehicles not being able to come down the street because of the parking and then the two-way traffic on the road?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the main concern.
That and just the volume of traffic for 30 days that on a residential street. Yeah, that's very scary.
Okay, so I'm kind of confused, because typically when we talk about traffic, we mean like cars aren't moving quickly, so it's typically not as much like a pedestrian safety concern. So is it just the light? I mean, the concern is when there are lines of cars, emergency vehicles separately, the in and out, the volume of in and out is concerning for the pedestrians?
Yes, and the
Okay.
members of the mosque too.
Okay.
They're
Walking and parking and walking and
yes,
okay.
yes. So I have I have a copy of the letter that we sent to the town from my attorney. I can give you guys a copy of that too.
I think that, I mean, the town has that, and that's where we would tell you if you brought it here, we would just give it over to them. So appreciate that.
Okay.
And I think that is the only question I had. So thank you.
Well, the one last thing I would just,
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
all right.
Oh, no, hold on, there's another question, though.
There is another question.
Yeah, Vice Chair Barnett.
Thank you, sir. Have you raised your concerns recently with the town of Los Gatos Police Department? And if so, what response did you get?
Yes, we've talked to them numerous times because I have documented multiple violations of their current CUP, and when we call them, they document the violation, but they don't seem very, I guess, appreciative of the call. It seems like they're very dismissive, so it's frustrating.
Just follow up. Have you contacted any other departments of the town?
Yes, we've had several meetings with the town attorney, with Joel, with multiple people, the town manager. Yeah, this has been ongoing for 2 years.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Paulson, is there anybody on Zoom?
There is not.
All right. We'll close that part of verbal communications. We do not have any items on the consent calendar tonight. Is that correct? Okay. Then moving past that, we will now move into the public hearings portion, starting with item number 1. Consider an appeal of the Community Development Director decision to deny a request to remove a pre-1941 property from the Historic Resources Inventory for property zoned C1 located at 647 North Santa Cruz Avenue, APN 410-14-015, exempt pursuant to CEQA Section 15061, Section B3, request for review PHST-25-022. Property owner is 647 North Santa Cruz Avenue, LLC. The applicant is Lance Tate, and the project planner is Ryan Safdie. Before the staff report today, may I have a show of hands of the commissioners who have visited the property? Are there any disclosures? No? Great. Mr. Safdie, will you be presenting the staff report for us?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Before you is an appeal of the Community Development Director decision to deny a request to remove a pre-1941 residence from the Historic Resources Inventory on the property located at 647 North Santa Cruz. The subject property is located on the west side of North Santa Cruz Avenue and has a neighborhood commercial zoning classification. The property is currently developed with a 2-story office building at the front of the site and a single-family residence in the rear. The 929 square foot residence at the rear has an estimated construction date of 1924 per the applicant's historic report. The property is not within a historic district and is not included in the 1990s and Bloomfield survey. The Sanborn Fire Insurance maps show the residence on the property as early as 1928 and shows a rear addition occurring sometime between the 1928 and 1944 Sanborn Fire Insurance maps. On November 19th, the Historic Preservation Committee received the staff report, held a public hearing, and discussed the request. HPC voted 4-1 to recommend denial to the Community Development Director, finding that the residence still has integrity and is typical of the craftsman style. On November 21st, the Director denied the request for removal. On November 25th, that decision of the Director was appealed to the Planning Commission by the property owner. As a reminder, appeals are considered de novo. The Planning Commission may render a decision anew without reference to the conclusion made through the previous decision. On the appeal form, the appellant indicates that the HPC relied on insufficient evidence and that the property does not meet the town's criteria for inclusion in the inventory. An addendum report from the appellant was provided to supplement their previous historic report. as well as support their appeal, which is included in Exhibit 7 of the report. The addendum report outlines the history of development in town, history behind craftsman architecture, location of fine examples of craftsman architecture in town, and a description of the integrity of this structure. Regarding the integrity, which is that fifth finding you'll find in the staff report, the report notes that the building has been significantly altered over time with the enclosure of the front porch and roof extension, a rear addition and associated roof extension on the back, along with new columns and architectural features from the neoclassical style. Pictures were included to show these modifications. The report notes that the residence is now a mix of styles and forms, which remove the previous craftsman's style and character, and concludes by stating that the property is not a significant historic resource. For the reasons noted in the staff report, it is recommended that the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the director to deny this request to remove a pre-1941 property from the historic resources inventory. Staff does note that an addendum and a desk item were prepared and distributed ahead of tonight's meeting, which included some public comments. This concludes staff's presentation. We are available to answer any questions, and both the applicant, the owner, and their historian are here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Safdie. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Stump?
Mr. Safdie, is a public posting required at the property ahead of this meeting? I guess the reason I ask that question, that in every other case where I've seen something coming before us for an appeal, there isn't actually a posting at the property so that people that are walking by, that the public can actually see that there is going to be a hearing. Now, I might have missed it. I only was on probably two sides of the property. I don't even know if there's a third side that's accessible, but I went through the main driveway. There's obviously a sign there for the development project, but I did not see anything that gave notice of a public hearing this evening.
So thank you for that question. I will have to confirm one piece. I will say the HPC application itself, though, does not have a public notification process, but I need to double check if an appeal of an HPC decision would, in terms of a sign itself. Of course, we did send the mail cards in the letter, or in the mail.
Any other questions? All right. I will now open the public portion of the public hearing for item number 1 and give the applicant an opportunity to address the commission for up to 5 minutes. I have Bonnie Bamberg as the applicant. Please know that you and other members could speak, but you together all have 5 minutes.
Yes, I am not the applicant.
Oh.
I have a historic preservation firm, Urban Programmers.
Oh. Okay.
We have been practicing historic preservation elements for over 45 years, and I was asked to bring my firm to evaluate the historic values of this particular property, and we did. I wanted to start by giving a definition of historic preservation, because I think sometimes we get lost in the meaning of what we're doing. Historic preservation is an interdisciplinary practice that involves identifying, protecting, preserving, rehabilitating, and reusing buildings that meet the criteria of significance in one of 4 general categories. These 4 general categories were put out a long time ago by the National Park Service, and they've been adopted in cities and counties across the country, all of which generally fall back into these 4 criteria. Is it associated with an event, a big pattern of something important that happened, an individual who was very important? Does it have architecture that stands as a symbol of either a pure form or the community? And may it have the opportunity to yield information in either history or prehistory at a future time? So with that definition and what we use in our firm to go through the process of evaluating properties, First of all, we look at the 4 criteria. We did not find in this case a significant association with an event or a broad pattern that was very important in Los Gatos. We did not find a person of importance in Los Gatos associated with this property. We looked at the architecture and we found that it was an example of a craftsman's style, more a cabin style than what we typically think of as craftsmen. And it had been altered rather dramatically on one facade, more on another facade of enclosing a porch or creating an extra room there, and somewhat on each of the 4 sides there have been alterations. When we looked at significance of architecture, and we look at the buildings in Los Gatos, in historic districts and not, and we find that Los Gatos has a wealth of very fine craftsman architecture throughout the city and the hills, not just in the urban area. When we compare those buildings to the values of this particular house, we found that it did not meet the standard of being of special character, which is what the Los Gatos ordinance calls for, or of a unique, artistic, high-quality craftsmanship, etc. So we found that the building did not meet the criteria for the State of California Register or under the criteria of the Los Gatos Preservation Ordinance. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? It does not look like it. Thank you. All right. My second speaker card is for Steve Johnson.
Good evening. I am Stephen Johnson. I am here to speak out against this project, 647 North Santa Cruz. So I've lived in Los Gatos virtually most of my life, 60 plus years. And I've seen the town undergo many changes. And the 2 worst things that have happened is SB 330 and the influx of ultra-rich Los Gatos. In any case, specifically for this, SB 330 is a one-size-fits-all, one-size-fits-none in this state. And we missed our deadline to diminish the effect this thing would have due to the sabotage, in my opinion, of several members of the town council. In any case, all you have to do is look as far as North 40 to see how these projects fail. How many low-income units were supposed to have been built and on what timeline in the North 40? How far has that been scaled back? And how far will it be scaled back in the future, since they have still yet to build a single low-income housing? In any case, you cannot allow these guys to any type of variance to height limits.
Can you take the microphone with you? This is being recorded.
You all say you walk the property. You walk the properties that were adjacent to this project. This is my backyard. These are just other photos of the backyard. This is where they're going to build that monstrosity of condos, okay? They are going to have
Could you
a
actually
direct...
speak into the microphone?
They are going to have a direct line of sight from their windows that are on this side of the building into my backyard. I have an expectation of privacy. This is going to completely erode the privacy of my backyard, and it's going to erode the value of my property. This is a single-family residence type of neighborhood. There are no other condos anywhere near this place, and there are very few 2-story buildings that come close to this height limit they're asking for. Every house that is torn down, whether it's of great significance or little significance, is another bullet in the heart of the charm of Los Gatos. And it does no good to say, oh, this one's of little significance. You cannot let them continue to destroy the reason most people moved to this town without any stop. And that's essentially what I'm here to say. They will destroy the privacy of my lot, my backyard, my pool. They're asking for an overheight variance.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Commissioner Stump?
I'm sorry, what street do you live on?
I live on Mariposa.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Anything else? No, I don't think so. Oh, sorry. Yes, Commissioner Burnett.
So I'm sure, thank you for coming tonight. I'm sure you know this home in this area very well, living there for so long.
62 years, yeah.
Has the home that has come before us tonight, has that changed much in architectural design?
I can only speak to that house for the last 15 or 16 months when I moved onto Mariposa. But I've lived on the other side of town and up on golf links by the golf course. And I just retired last year and moved to Mariposa, so I can't really say how much it has changed.
In your opinion, is it in a situation of deterioration or?
Certainly it hasn't been maintained, but that's what typically happens. These houses get less and less maintained until they're sold, and the buyer, usually a family, rebuilds it within the guidelines of the Planning Commission. As I've done that with a house in Los Gatos.
So it would look like it would be inhabitable.
It's inhabitable now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you. Mr. Paulson, is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right. If you want to hand in a speaker card for this item, is that what you just said? Yeah, you go ahead and, yeah, come on up. Just state your name, and then you can gather information after. Thank you.
My name is Grazia Johnson. I'm his wife. And we moved to this house, seeing this backyard, just one house with one shed in it, and we were fine. I mean, there is a lot of green there, and it's wonderful, okay? Now, I understand the change of the house. I don't know if it's historic or not. I don't care about that. But I care about why in one property where there is just one house right now, they are going to build these 6 3-story houses. It's not just a one-story. I understand, fill up the land, the property with a one-story house, but now with a 3-story house, it's like we don't have a privacy anymore. And right in our backyard, there will be four townhouses just looking at us. And it's unbelievable. I'm sorry about all these trees that they have to cut down because they have to build whatever. And it makes no sense to me. And you know, if we ask to raise our fence just 1 foot, the rules of Los Gatos probably don't permit that because, you know, it's just 7 feet, but I want to say just once more, if we ask for the fence to go higher, probably they say no. Instead, for a house, 3-story buildings, they say yes. I mean, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. I mean, think about this. If it was in your backyard, I mean, I understand the developer, I mean, I understand built the houses, but not 3-story houses. Thank you. I'm sorry for my...
Thank you. No, are there any questions? No. Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any other speakers, so I'm now going to close the public portion of the public. Huh? Oh, sorry. Close. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. First day of being the new chair. Sorry. The applicant or the speaker for the applicant has 5 minutes if you would like to come and make a closing statement. 3 minutes. I'm getting there. I'm sure there's going to be a few questions for you too, so.
Again, I find myself in a kind of an awkward position because I don't even know what the project looks like. That wasn't our task. Our task was strictly to deal with evaluating the historic values of the property as we saw it. So I can't really comment anything on the project other than our reports that have been delivered to you. And I'd be glad to take any questions on those.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any, Mr. Sordi? Oh,
Yeah,
please, we've got questions for you if you don't mind coming back up.
I have a specific question. Thank you. One of the things I'm interested in is your opinion on one of the findings, because we've got 5 findings in front of us. You evaluated the findings in your report, and as you know, we've got one finding. It's number 3, and it says there are no distinctive characteristics of type, period, or method of construction, or representation of work of a master. And it appears as though, per your report, and you're the expert, you've determined that not to be the case, right? Mm-hmm. In other words, that finding to justify removal from the inventory could be made. I guess what I'm interested in is your opinion about whether or not, if that holds true, would finding number 5 be necessary to evaluate at all? And that finding says the integrity has been compromised such that the structure no longer has the potential to convey significance. So if you don't have 3, does it even make sense to evaluate number 5?
When we go through an evaluation process in a community that has created its own criterion, we go through every one of the different elements, and we also apply how they compare with other buildings, in this case buildings, in the community. So yes, we would go through each one, even though we may say, no, we don't have to go any farther, but we do. And we do consider all of those criteria.
Okay. And then I think it's pretty safe to summarize that at this point, you believe all 5 criteria would be met to justify removal from the inventory. And the reason I ask it that specifically is it seems as though the conclusion that the HBC made at their hearing was that 4 were met, but the 5th one was not. So.
Yes, that would be our professional opinion. And to be very honest with you, in Los Gatos, there's sometimes different terms used interchangeably. And I had trouble with it, and so I was asking staff earlier. The historic inventory as such, as we see it in many places, relies on an evaluation of the properties. In this case, we provided that evaluation. We did not see that it was on or had been recognized by the town council to be on an historic inventory. But I understand historic inventory pre-1941 and possibly other definitions of older buildings, the terms are used interchangeably. And so we respect that, and we just say yes. If it's on an inventory of any kind, then we would say it doesn't have the merit in Los Gatos to be on that inventory.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Burnett?
Yes, thank you. So if the house was basically built in 1928, and you're saying that, well, there's no distinctive characteristics of type, period, or method of construction, and yet you look at the home, and it still looks very much like, I mean, there has been some changes, but as far as the total look of it, if you look around the house, it still has characteristics of that time period of a California bungalow home. So it's hard for me to accept what you're saying, because how can you say that when it was built in 1928? At that time, it had certain characteristics, a California bungalow. It still has many of those characteristics, and yet you're saying it doesn't. So that's sort of, hard to, and inhabitable-wise, it can be inhabited. So, I mean,
Well, Commissioner Burnett, was that a question? It sounded more like a
well,
statement.
I'm asking her how she came up with the fact that she feels there's no distinctive characteristics.
All right.
When it hasn't changed that much. There's been some additions in modeling, but, so what do you base your decision, your remarks on?
Again, we come back to look at not only what is this particular building, but how does this particular building fit in the general category of craftsman architecture in Los Gatos. So when we look at this particular building, can we tell that it fits into the category of craftsman style? Yes, of course we can. Do we look at not the modifications and everything first? First, we look at what is it in comparison, where does it fit within the architectural heritage that defines Los Gatos? What will future generations look at? Will they see this as distinctive of a craftsman style building in Los Gatos? And our conclusion is no. It is definitely within the category of craftsman style, but it is not a building that rises to the criteria limits that many, many other buildings in Los Gatos do. So it's the comparison looking for special character or significance. Those two, the Los Gatos ordinance uses special character. I don't think we see special character in that building.
Oh, thank you for that comment. I fail to agree with you.
And through the chair, just so you know, that if someone has a question for the applicant, Mr. Tate, he's also available on Zoom.
Oh, excellent. All right. Does anybody have any questions either for, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor? Yeah.
Yes, I know you evaluated the structure for its architectural merit, but I wanted to ask you if you could make any comments on the structural integrity of the structure.
I can only make those things that we observed walking around and looking at the building. We saw some settlement. We saw some infestation area, rotted areas, probably from water intrusion, and then, the termites arrive. But I couldn't give you a structural belief that it is in danger or not in danger.
Of course.
This might be for you or might be for staff. Does anyone have the information about when was the last time someone actually lived in this structure?
That perhaps would go towards Mr. Tate, who is on Zoom.
I can't answer that.
Is Mr. Tate there? Do you know when was the last time someone lived in the home?
The homeowner is actually, I'm sorry, the property owner is actually here. He could answer that more specifically than I could.
So for the record, the applicant, the property owner stated that it 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Sorty.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Commissioner Mayer's question and lob it over to Mr. Tate. So I know I did listen to all the audio from the HPC, and at the beginning of the HPC hearing, it was said pretty clearly by the owner that the property is basically beyond repair. But there wasn't a lot of support that was then added to that, and so I was wondering if maybe Mr. Tate could elaborate and maybe get into a little more detail about why it's beyond repair.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, it's my first planning commission remotely. I apologize. We actually had an inspection done, which was submitted with our application. And the inspection kind of spoke for itself. There's a fair amount of deferred maintenance. There could be an argument to be made that the house wasn't livable even when there were tenants in it. And I would encourage everyone to review that component that was submitted with our original application.
that answer your question? All right. Are there any others? Right. Seeing none, I think I'm safe to officially close the public portion of the public hearing for item number 1. And before I invite commissioners to ask questions of staff, provide comments, et cetera, I do want to remind the commissioners that we are here tonight specifically concerning the appeal to remove the home from the historic registry or historic inventory. Unfortunately, we are not here to speak about the any upcoming applications that might be on the property. And so now I'll invite any questions of staff, conversation, comment. Oh, Vice Chair.
I have a bunch, but I'll yield from time to time. There was the desk item regarding the CEQA evaluation on this property. I wonder if Ms. Whalen could comment on that.
Yes, there was a letter that was submitted that stated that the town should consider removal of this property from the historic resources inventory at the same time that it considers the application for a development project. And it's staff's view that these are two separate applications. In fact, they are two separate applications. And so the question before the commission tonight is, does this property belong on the historic register or not?
Okay, thank you for that.
Do you have a follow-up to that?
I have different questions, if I may proceed.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so if we look at section 2910.020, the standard is for any pre-1941 property, whether the town has determined that the structure has no historic significance or architectural merit. And so with respect to architectural merit, is it correct that we then look at the state findings 1 through 5 to help inform us as to whether it has historical merit, or excuse me, architectural merit?
I can jump in, and then if I miss anything, Director Paulson or Ryan Safdie can help out. So the town has used the 5 evaluation criteria that are included in your staff report that we call findings. And those findings are very similar to what are used at the state and national level, but they don't operate the same. So those 5 findings are independently considered. So 1 through 4 talks about events, significant people, distinctive characteristics or work of a master, does not yield any information on the town's history. And then the 5th being integrity, which is really evaluating how much change and manipulation has occurred on the resource since its built construction.
Thank you. I can pass.
She has a follow-up, so yes, please, Commissioner Thomas.
Okay, if I ask a follow-up to that. Okay, so one question that I have is when we interpret, I think that integrity can sometimes be interpreted in multiple ways, especially for those that are less familiar with this part of our town code. So integrity means like integrity to the architectural design and structure, not integrity to the stability or engineering of the property.
Thank you for that question. I think that's an important distinction. So integrity is related to the architecture. These older homes tend to have deferred maintenance, and the structural integrity of a residence is not what is evaluated for whether it can be removed from the inventory or not, because if it is a valuable resource, it could be a candidate for rehabilitation rather than removal.
Okay. And then my other follow-up is, because the town of Los Gatos interprets, or doesn't interpret, but kind of uses these 5 criteria in a slightly different way, what should we be doing as a body, or what happens typically in town if the findings contradict the purpose of the historic preservation ordinance and the don't uphold, for example, something like some of the language related to the related to the purpose that, it says that it is town policy to preserve these resources whenever possible and practical. And what if the findings contradict when it's practical, or that doesn't serve, the purposes to promote health, safety, general welfare, public, or the enhancement of property values, etc. And maybe that's also a question for the town attorney.
I read the statute or the ordinance to define historic structure as any primary structure constructed prior to 1941, unless the deciding body has determined that the structure has no historic significance and should not be included in the town historic resources inventory. And so the finding that the commission is being asked to make is, does this structure have any historic significance? And those 5 factors are ways that the commission can determine whether or not the structure has any historic significance.
So it also says in the town code that the purpose of the historic preservation ordinance states X, Y, and Z. So if that contradicts, then
You should use the 5 criterion.
okay. I know we're not on to questions yet, but I just want to say that is frustrating, I know, for more than just me, because this happens, and I'm not saying that it's frustrating from a staff how it's being interpreted or telling us. I'm not frustrated with anyone here, but just a frustration of the way that this ordinance is written, and one of the reasons why I think the HPC has been trying to work on updating some of that language. So thank you for answering those questions.
Are there any other questions? Vice Chair.
To me. So question for staff. If we look at finding number 3 in the recommended criteria, it says there are no distinctive characteristics of type, period, or method of construction, etc. So when it says distinctive, does that mean something that is unusual? Or it seems to me, I guess the question is, does distinctive mean it's something that's uncommon versus it has some unique quality? Distinctive means, to me, a unique quality, and the opposite would be common. So, for example, if we're talking about it being in the craftsman style, under 3, it would have to be something novel with respect to a craftsman style. Hopefully that's clear.
I'll defer to Mr. Mullen. I'll give a really bad example, and then he can clean that up. So if you have an otherwise, stellar architecturally craftsman with a turret, that would be pretty distinctive.
Yeah.
I would not say that in that instance that would be a reason to save that resource. But Mr. Mullen?
And I can add that I think distinctive in this context really leans on that it's an example of excellence or superior quality. So recognizing that, picking on the craftsman style, there can be craftsman elements, but are they distinctive? Are they excellent? Are they high quality? When you read that finding as a whole, it ends with work of a master. And so I think there's a distinction between a craftsman house that may be a Sears kit. I'm not an architect, so I don't know if Sears made those, versus a green and green craftsman. I think there's going to be a very bright line between the two. And I think that's what they're getting at here with the distinctive.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Any comments? Yes, Commissioner Burnett?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that if we go along that line, there are a lot of homes in Los Gatos that aren't totally distinctive, but they are a time and place of a California cottage home, whether it's craftsman or whatever. They may not be the most expensive, but they did house people in our town that maybe were of a more moderate but they still have, I believe they have a place to stay in our town because it is part of our history. I mean, just because it doesn't have a turret or balconies, it still, I think, deserves to be saved and to looked at in a different way. I think it has an architectural integrity in its own way. Maybe it be simple and, not a lot of outstanding characteristics, but it was built at a certain time. And I think we really need to look at that. And so I think it's important for our time. I mean, that's what our town is known for. So I just feel like I always have to fight for these little homes. And I think they deserve to be fought for.
All right, any other comments? Commissioner Stone?
Yeah, let me just say that based on what has been submitted in the staff report, what has been submitted as an addendum, the information that's been provided here tonight, I'm inclined to continue to support the denial of this removal from the historic registry or the inventory. Again, based on that criterion number 5 could not be met, the integrity has been compromised such that the architecture no longer has the potential to convey significance. And I think that's a much broader concept about conveying significance than some of the other tighter criteria that are here. So I just wanted to put that out on the table.
All right, any other comments? Vice Chair?
Yes, this is a question for staff. So if we look at the 5 criteria, after 4, there's the word or, not and. So to me, that means that it's sort of in a negative here. You could not have findings 1 through 4, but you could have on 5. So in my view, 1 through 4 cannot be met, and 5 doesn't apply because 1 through 4 are not applicable. I was wondering if the word or is reasonably interpreted in that way.
Typically, or means that the deciding body makes any one of those 5 decisions. As these findings are written, I think they're paraphrasing what's in the state guidelines, and I think it would be worthwhile to see if the state guidelines are set up the same way, because I think that any one of these reasons would be reasons to preserve it within the inventory. Any one of the reasons are reasons to either remove it or preserve it within the inventory.
And Mr. Mullen's probably more familiar, but these are pretty similar to the state criterion. But if I'm correct, I think that maybe is worded differently. So more towards what Commissioner Barnett, how he looks at it. If you can't make the first 4, the 5 ones not in play, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
And they're similar to the way the state criteria are set up. Trying to pull them up, but having some trouble finding them to provide the comparison, but they're very similar. The difference between the state, as I understand it, and the town, and I'm not a professional historian, caveat there, is the state looks at 1 through 4 as, do you qualify under one of these 4? So let's use an example of a Frank Lloyd Wright house. Obviously, that's a work of a master architect. But that so you can make finding 3 there. The next step is then to look at integrity and whether the resource has the integrity enough integrity to continue to communicate the importance of the structure. So if you had that Frank Lloyd Wright house and someone remodeled it until it looked like my ranch house, it's lost its integrity. So therefore, you couldn't that wouldn't qualify for listing. The town is not operated that way. The town looks at all 4 of those independently. That's how it's traditionally been done. So if you can't make 1 through 4, but you can make 5 or the opposite because they're written in the negative. Integrity just speaks independently of whether it's been remodeled such that it's lost its historic roots or its historic look. So that's the distinction between the two, as I understand it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Sorty.
I remember this coming up the last time we had another item where we needed to consider removing it from the list. I remember talking about the findings. I did express some frustration that, unlike most of the decisions the Planning Commission makes, the findings are usually in the code. So it's pretty crystal clear about whether you need to make all the findings or you only need to make one. I think what we concluded in that instance was that the commission is charged with considering all 5 of these items, but they don't need to make all 5 in either direction, right? It's just consider all 5 of these criteria when making your decision or making your recommendation. So in that respect, I think that, well, I think, so, okay, so that's one point. And I'll move on to my second point, which is we have one expert that's weighed in on this, and this person has substantial experience. And that was the only expert that prepared a report. That's the only expert that weighed in at HPC, notwithstanding the fact that there was no expert opinion to counter that person's expert opinion at HPC. The HPC still took it upon themselves to disagree with that. That's certainly their prerogative, but I don't agree with that. I don't think that meets the logical standard that I would like to see when making a decision. If you're going to counter the expert opinion, you need to have an expert opinion to fall back on, as opposed to a bunch of opinions of lay people, which are fine, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I'm sure there's varying degrees of expertise when it comes to membership on HPC, but I would only be comfortable countering and going against the expert's opinion in this case if there was some expert on the other side, and I don't see it. So, you know, I'm inclined to support the request to remove this from the inventory. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Sorty. I'll kind of speak in here too. I've had the privilege to serve on the HPC for a number of years and the Planning Commission, and have seen many homes come in front of us, you know, and you certainly do get those that when you are on, you know, number 5, there certainly is a great deal of integrity. There's no debate on what style and if it has the right, you know, significant details of the architectural style or anything like that. But in a case like this, when I look at this house, I see such significant modifications made to it. To even go back to try to find the architectural style, you would be doing a great deal of remodel to put it, in my opinion, back to that architectural style. So I personally, my opinion would be to grant the appeal, but I'm obviously going to look to my other commissioners for their thoughts. Commissioner Thomas?
Thank you. I serve on the HPC and am, as other commissioners have expressed, sometimes been frustrated with the way that these findings have been interpreted and used in town, because it can sometimes make our jobs difficult. And I think that really looking at this language, it says, as required for determination that a pre-1941 primary structure has no historic significance or architectural merit, those are the findings that have to be made. So I think we can agree that there's no historic significance with regards to, I mean, and continued, we made this finding as a HPC about the events. It's not the work of a master, and nothing, it's not, no significant person lived there. So when we look at the, or architectural merit, when we say merit, that, and I mean, maybe this is another question for the town attorney, but that really, unless there's a different legal definition than the layperson's one, the quality of being particularly good or worthy, especially so as to deserve praise or reward. And so if I use that definition, it doesn't seem like this has it doesn't seem that there are distinctive characteristics of type, period, or method of construction, because, you know, according to the historical report, that is true, and that is a finding that we already made. And it does seem that the integrity, it doesn't matter that then the integrity has been compromised because it was never of merit to begin with. Is that a way?
Yeah, the way I read the ordinance is that the decision for this body to make is, does the structure have any historic significance? And then these 5 factors are factors to consider when you're making that decision. So any one of these 5 factors can be the basis for saying, yes, it has historic significance, or no, it does not.
So, but it also says, or architectural merit, right? Or no?
I'm not seeing the phrase architectural merit in section
written in our findings.
29,
Sorry, it's
10.
written in our findings, so that's why I said that, but I don't know if that's...
Okay, so the way the code reads is an historic structure is any primary structure constructed prior to 1941, unless the deciding body has determined that the structure has no historic significance and should not be included in the town historic resources inventory.
And through the chair. So
Okay.
we see in the findings, you're talking about the lead-in language.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
Okay. So then, sorry, Ms. Whalen, after the section you just read, then does it list the 5?
No, those are not codified, but those are factors that the town has traditionally used in order to make a determination whether or not it's historically significant.
Okay. So I guess that, and again, this is like going back and forth. I mean, it's kind of going in circles, which I understand, but it just does not. I mean, I think that there have been modifications that have been made, significant modifications that have been made, and even before those modifications have been made, this is not a representation of a work of a master, and I do not believe that its original architectural style was anything that provided merit. So I think that I can support the removal with the addendum with the additional information that was provided tonight in the staff report by the expert. I just want to say that I agree with Commissioner Sorty. I mean, we are looking at this, but you know, I'm not an architect and I'm not a historian, so interpreting this information, I have to take what the experts have to say, and would be interested to hear what our architect on the Planning Commission maybe has to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Mayer.
Sure, I can make some comments here. I'm an architect, but I'm not a historic preservationist. But I do know that historic preservation is actually its own discipline that, you know, you can study it, you can get a master's degree in it. So it is its own discipline unto itself, and it's nice to see that we have an expert here today sharing her thoughts with us. I just want to say, just because a structure is old doesn't mean it has historic value. I think for the town's historic preservation ordinance, I think it does one thing well, which is our historic districts. And when a property is within one of our historic districts, there's no ambiguity about is it historic or not. And then we have this everything built before 1941 thing is historic by default, and then it has to come to the HPC, and then sometimes comes to the Planning Commission like tonight. So, and that's the exact opposite. It's just full of ambiguity, right? So it is always a tough call, and these are tough deliberations, but I do think it is very helpful to have the report of an expert, someone who's done a thorough evaluation of the historical merit of a pre-1941 structure. And I would say that in this case, it seems pretty convincing to me. I feel like the house, it has been altered to the point where I don't really see any historical value in it. So yeah, just a general comment about these pre-1941 items. It would be helpful maybe in the future to have more professional input from the historic preservation side to assist both HPC and Planning Commission make their decision.
Thank you. Are there any additional? Commissioner Burnett?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about the Historical Preservation Committee. There's one member that has been a member of the San Jose Planning Department for many years. She's been on the Historic Preservation Committee for many years. She's been in Los Gatos. She's been on the Planning Commission. I would consider her an expert. She's very familiar with the homes in Los Gatos. I'm on the Historic Preservation Committee. This is my second round of it. I was on it 8 years previous, and now I've been on it now for 4 years. So I don't have a degree. I have a degree in a master's in nursing, but I don't have a degree in historic preservation. But I think my experience and this, or another member on the Historic Preservation Committee, I would consider her an expert. She's very well qualified. We've all attended classes on this preservation agendas and gone to seminars. So I would think that that would count for something, regarding to our Commissioner Sortie. I think there are people on the Historic Preservation Committee that could be considered they don't have a degree or whatever, but experience and exposure and time, I think also should be considered in their opinion.
Commissioner Stump?
Mr. Mayor, I think I'm going to test you here. I didn't quite hear like your last sentence that you stated, and now it's been a while since you made that statement. So I'm not sure that you can even remember what I'm referring to at this point.
Sure. I'm looking at the 5 elements of the Los Gatos criteria, and number 5. The 1924 house has extensive alterations that greatly diminish the minimal craftsman element of the original design. And I do find that argument compelling.
And I guess the one thing that I would just say is we're kind of piling on related to historic preservation here. Obviously, we're going to be having fewer and fewer 1941 structures coming before the town because we probably have fewer and fewer pre-1941 structures out there. I think what we're also starting to set ourselves up with is who's got the better expert. And now are we going to go down the path where, because we've had an expert, and I certainly don't doubt her credentials at all, that we're going to have to counter with our own expert and place additional burden on the town to engage an expert if we get expert information and we want to basically verify it, right? Test it, like Mr. Sortie is saying. So that would place an additional burden. And maybe it's one that we need because you know what? I think we all want to get this right. And it is a gray area. And that's why I say we get paid the big bucks because we work in the gray, right?
Commissioner Thomas.
I have a question for staff about about how Los Gatos went about determining what went on the historic resources inventory, and if that is typical of what most towns and cities do, how they went about it.
So I can speak to this town, and anecdotally speak to some others. So some others might use the CEQA benchmark of anything that's 50 years old. So in the absence of an ordinance that has specifics like ours, they may just look at a house coming in that was built 50 years ago and perform an evaluation on it from the CEQA context. The town has a historic preservation ordinance and some design guidelines that talk specifically about historic preservation. The 3 main criteria that trigger something to be considered historic or potentially historic is any structure or site that is located within a historic district. So we have 6 districts, 5 districts, the Broadway, Almond Grove, Fairview, University, and then the nationally registered downtown commercial district. So that's one. The second is any structure that is historically designated. Those are individual historically designated sites that are done at the council level by ordinance. There's a number of them spread throughout the town. Those are outside of districts typically. And then the last one, which is the subject of tonight's meeting, is any primary structure that was constructed prior to 1941, unless the town has determined that the structure has no historic significance or architectural merit. When folks come to the counter and stare at me wide-eyed about what that means, one way I describe it is the town didn't and probably wouldn't have the resources to survey every house that was built prior to 1941 to do a full evaluation and individually recognize each house. So with the date outside of those other 2 criterion, they cast a wide net. And when you cast a wide net, you pick up a lot of things that don't belong there. As such, the process is included in the design guidelines for consideration of whether, or determination of whether a pre-41 structure that has the potential to be historic, to determine whether it does have that potential or not. And that's the process through the HPC's recommendation through the director.
And just if I follow up, if I may, and the 1941 date was chosen because why?
I stumbled upon this fact very accidentally when looking for something else. When the Ann Bloomfield survey was being considered and adopted by the council 1990-ish, there was debate on what date they should use for the casting of the wide net. They chose 41 because that was the first year the town had a full tax assessment record within the town's boundaries.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Anyone want to venture a motion? No, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Vice Chair?
I'll venture a motion concerning item 1 on tonight's calendar. I move to grant the appeal of the Community Development Director's decision to deny a request to remove the pre-1941 property from the Historic Resources Inventory property for the property commonly known as 647 North Santa Cruz Avenue. My opinion is based on the fact that although it is a pre-1941 construction, that the property does not have historic significance or architectural merit. And with respect to the 5 criteria, I believe that 1 through 4 cannot be made based on the facts that have been presented to the Planning Commission, and also in reliance on Ms. Bamberg's 2 reports that are in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Swarty, thank you. All right.
Chair, before
any
you
comments?
vote.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
So staff has prepared, in the event that the commission were to vote to grant the appeal, staff has prepared a resolution. And so I can distribute that resolution to each of you, and then it can be amended as necessary. And I'll also put copies on the table for the public to see.
Okay.
And just for clarity, we don't have a resolution, we have revised findings.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I assume we want to read that before we call the vote. Yes.
And Chair, might I suggest maybe we take a 5-minute break so the Planning Commission can read this?
Yeah. Yes, we'll do a 5-minute break. Thank you. reopen the public portion for item number 1, and we'll look at the maker of the motion to see, as you've read the updated findings, if you wish to adopt those into the motion.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I will modify my previous motion by incorporating by reference the CEQA findings and the historic resources inventory removal findings presented by staff tonight.
And the seconder? Okay. Okay, I will now call the question. All in favor, say aye. And those opposed? That passes 5-2. Are there any appeal rights, Mr. Safdie?
Thank you, Chair. I'll go ahead and take care of the appeal rights. Anyone who's not satisfied with the decision of the Planning Commission can appeal that decision to the Town Council. The appeal must be filed within 10 days. There's a fee for filing the appeal, and the appeal is available on the town's website as well as the clerk's department for the form.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. All right, we will now move on to item number 2. Consider a request for approval for site improvements requiring a grading permit and conditional use permit for a vineyard greater than 3,000 square foot on property zoned HR 2.5, located at 16135 Cerro Vista Drive, APN 537-30-018, exempt pursuant to the CEQA section 15303A, new construction or conversion of small structures, and section 15304, minor alterations to land. The property owner is Ruben, I'm going to say that name wrong, Caballero. The applicant is Gary Kolstadt, and the project planner is Surrey Nathan. Before the staff report, did everyone get to either visit the property or review the property? Are there any disclosures? Okay, great. And Mr. Nathan, you'll be giving us a staff report?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before you is an architectural site and a conditional use permit application. The subject site is located at 16135 Cerro Vista Drive, and it is zoned HR 2.5. On July 25th, 2025, the applicant submitted an architectural site application for a site improvement that requires grading permit and a conditional use permit for a 16,300 square foot vineyard. The project scope also includes a new 576 square foot detached outdoor kitchen structure, along with new patio and pool decking. The proposed project meets the technical requirement for the town's code for floor area, building coverage, parking, and height. The Planning Commission is considering the project for a conditional use permit for a vineyard greater than 3,000 square feet. Also, a fence height exception for an 8-foot tall deer fencing, which is approximately about 95-foot section of a fence around the vineyard, where the maximum height limit is about 6 feet. And additionally, the applicant requests an exception to the hillside development standard and guidelines for a portion of the finished floor height that exceeds 3 feet above the existing grade. The applicant proposed height is about 3 feet 2 inches. Exhibit 4 provides justification for the conditional use permit, and Exhibit 5 provides justification for the fence height exception, and Exhibit 6 provides justification for the grade height exception. And this concludes staff's presentation, and staff will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Stump?
Mr. Nathan, I guess I'll start out with the word briefly. Could you briefly summarize the building permit history for what we see out there today? There was obviously a building permit issued for the pool, but we see a pad that's been constructed out there as well. What has been done under which building permit or building permits?
Thank you for the question. Yes, in 2020, there was a building permit application, and it has been issued, and it was for the refurbishing and redoing of the pool and the existing deck at the time. Over time, they have extended the deck and added some fill, so that was done without acquiring the proper permit for that.
Okay.
And along with that, they have also, as I stated, the vineyard that was also constructed,
and that they said that they didn't realize that they needed a conditional use permit for it. So they've applied for the conditional use permit as well as the ANS to rectify these.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions for staff at this time? All right. Then I will call up the applicant who seems to know exactly what he's doing. Mr. Kolstad, you've got 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I am the architect for his accessory structures. I did not do the addition of his home or the pool, even though I like both of them, and I've been consulting on the side of all that as well. So it was, this is actually, so as planner said, we are here for a conditional use permit for the vineyard with an exception for deer fencing, and also for a grading permit for not for the vineyard, but there's grading that was done around the pool and in preparation for our 2 buildings. And now we're also asking for an exception, slight exception for fill heights of the patios for these 2, for the building and the patio. And that's pretty clear on our latest set of plans that should be in your packet. The vineyard was planted in 2019 by a very reputable vine company. Neither they nor the owner was aware that a conditional use permit was required. And I have to admit that I was not aware of that as well. Not that I had anything to do with the vineyard. This vineyard is on this western slope. There were no trees removed. There's virtually no grading done for this vineyard. And this vineyard was used with modern technology with drip irrigation. It's very low maintenance setup. And it's been there for 5-6 years now. And it's very evident that there's been no environmental concerns, no erosion, and a case could be made that it's actually stabilized the hillside. The fence that we need it closes up that 4th side. There's already fencing on 3 sides, and we're asking for a fence on the 4th side to keep the deer out of this wonderful vineyard, and the grapes are really good. Good job. The grading that was done, as I mentioned earlier, was kind of because they were doing the pool and they wanted to kind of just finish up the pool, so they just cleared a little bit more because he knows we already had permits almost in hand for the ADU and for this cantina. We call it a cantina, the outdoor kitchen. And we went over the 50 yards. So it's about 110 cubic yards, and so that exceeds the allowable limit for not getting a grading permit. So we've actually applied for the grading permit, and staff has asked us to combine the conditional use permit and the grading permit into one. So there really are 2 separate projects. We also, when we were building or designing these structures, we wanted to get a little extra room underneath the cantina, all the patio equipment, all the furniture, those kind of things. It would be great to just throw underneath this building. We're building this robust foundation anyway on the hillside. Why not just go ahead and do a little crawl space or a rat slab and grid of storage? It was pointed out late in the game that we were over the limits for accessory structures, the amount of cut you can make for an accessory structure, which is 3 feet, or 4 feet? 4 feet, thank you. So 4 feet for an accessory structure, we're asking for 6 or 7 feet. We're asking for 7 feet of cut. To get this under the building, it's not a basement, because we can't have a basement, but it's in a large crawl space. While it's not necessary for the building, it certainly would be a great addition to finish out this property. And I know it's a little bit out of the ordinary, but we're asking to put that back in to the plans, and I believe that you, as plan commissioners, would have the power to grant that exception if you found it worthy. So we are asking for that. I'm happy to answer any questions on that aspect of it or any other aspect. And also, Ruben Caballero is here with us tonight if you have questions for him.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Applicant? Okay, does it look like, oh, okay, Mr. Stump?
We received a desk item today from one of the neighbors, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. Can you help us understand the claim that extensive environmental damage to the hillside and downslope area would occur to the fragile nature of the large region of the hill that is currently covered with a significant number of trees? Is this neighbor referring to the vineyard or some other location on the property, or do you even know what the neighbor is referring to?
The way I took her letter, or the person's letter, was that there are significant trees below the vineyard area. Below that, there's a small retaining wall at the bottom of the vineyard. There's a small walkway, and then there's some more oak trees down there. I was just assuming that that's what she was concerned about, is those trees. But if any of you went out there to see it, you can see that there is zero erosion. There's zero, this is what's happening with the normal rains, not anything to do with the vineyard. The vineyard's on a drip system, and it's only watering certain times of the year. So it's certainly not going to be excessive water that's going to cause any kind of environmental concerns downslope.
When was the vineyard planted, and what is the irrigation system?
It was planted in 2019, and it's a drip system. We've detailed that on our letter, or on the plans. I'm sorry, there's a table on the plans. We even went to the extent of each row is how long, and each plant has one emitter, and it's the whole thing. So it was designed and installed perfectly to today's standards.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. On sheet A31, you're noting the existing wood wire fence, but actually, was that existing fence put in with the vineyard in 2019?
There are two fences on the property, which are existing. There is one fence on the bottom, yes, that's there right now, and that's a 6-foot fence. And then we're asking for the exception on the southern side, I believe, to finish that fourth side, and that's the fence that we're asking for exception in height over 7 feet. We're asking for 8 feet because it sits on a 2-foot stone base wall, and we want the fences to match. So it's actually 8 feet. Does that clarify your question?
Kind of. So there's another spot where it says existing, something wood wire fence, which I think is actually on the east side.
Mm-hmm.
Was that put in 2019 then? And how tall is that?
I believe that's the existing fence between the two neighbors, and that was put in well before 2019. Okay. And that's 6 feet. And what we say by wood and wire is that there's wood posts every 6 feet or so, and then there's wire mesh between the posts.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Commissioner Sorty?
Kind of a technical question, but on the downslope side of the vineyard, it says 2-foot retaining wall. And I'm wondering if there's any subgrade footing associated with that, because sometimes that actually defines the true depth, height of a retaining wall.
That, I was not involved in that construction, but 2 feet of exposed, there's no way it's going to be more than a foot of foundation. So we would still be underneath the 3-foot max height of a retaining wall, or 4 feet by permit.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have any other speaker cards for this item. Is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. So
I just want to say thank you all, and again, if there's any other questions, we're here. And congratulations on your new taking over, and thank you for a wonderful job from last year.
Thank you. So do any of us have additional questions? Mr. Stump, Commissioner Stump?
I want to come back to you. I guess you called it a cubby, right? The 6 foot,
yeah.
or the space you wanted under the kitchen.
The crawl space.
Yeah, the crawl space. Is that in drawings anywhere, or it sounds like it's been taken out?
It was taken out on the last iteration. Yes.
So what would we be referring to tonight other than, your request to see that and understand what that would look like incorporated into the project?
I would defer to staff, but I would start with just granting us the exception. The only reason why we can't do it is because there's too much cut for a accessory structure exceeding 4 feet. So we would ask for the exception of excessive or cut exceeding the limit, but maybe staff would have better language on that.
I don't see any information on that in the packet, and so if that is part of the request, I would recommend that the item be continued.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, Commissioner Thomas?
I know that this is not necessarily your area of expertise, what I'm about to ask a question about. So fencing, we have very specific hillside fence guidelines for the purpose of wildlife being able to move about. And I understand this is a fencing in of a area, which is a more unique situation. But do you know if the property owner has looked into, are there any alternatives? I'm not aware of any alternatives to really a tall fence for keeping deer out of a vineyard. Are you aware if there's any alternatives?
We did look into it, and there's nothing humane. So.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for applicant? And all right.
I have a question for the attorney.
Sure.
If there's no way that they can grant that exception for exceeding the cut.
Oh, I don't know if they can grant it or not. I just don't see it as part of the request that's in the packet tonight.
Because it was pulled out. So that means that the whole thing gets continued if we want to pursue this.
Nobody has any information on what you're asking for.
Right.
It's a crawl space underneath the structure that this exceeds the normal crawl space and exceeds the cut limits. So I would, if this is going to stall the whole project, I'm not sure if we're willing to go that route.
Commissioner Sorty.
Just for the sake of clarity, so this would be a crawl space underneath the ADU?
No, it would be crawl space underneath the cantina.
The cantina. Okay.
It is not on any of the plans you have right now. So
Okay.
Just to be clear.
I do have a cross section, but there's no overhead projector anymore. So,
I know.
and it's additional information that I understand.
Yeah.
So.
No. Well, do you want to? Oh, you're part of the applicant. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Why don't you come
That's
up
fine.
in case we have a question for you? And
Come on, wait, come up to the mic.
please come on up to the microphone. This is.
Nice meeting you all. It's actually a symmetric crawl space as the ADU, and it's been in the plan since the beginning, so it's just a symmetric one, identical. That's it. It's for storage.
It's
for
actually
storage.
still in our current building application.
Yeah.
So we haven't revised our building permits, waiting on our decision tonight. Your decision tonight.
I'm sorry. Can I do that? I'm just sorry. I'm confused. Can staff just kind of clarify what we're? Okay. Thank you.
The applicant proposed a basement under the outdoor kitchen, similar to the one that they have proposed for the ADU. And because it was going to increase the amount of grading as well as the exception for the depth of cut, they decided to remove that towards the end of it. So we didn't include that in the analysis, and also we didn't include it in the staff report. It's only today that he stated that he wants to ask the Planning Commission if they could grant that.
So if I guess my question then for you is that if we don't have that information and therefore can't make a decision tonight, would you prefer to continue the item to come back with that analysis, or would it be the preference that we don't consider that because we can't and move with what we have in front of us?
That's a very great question, fair question. I appreciate that. If the continuation process would be quicker than having you make your decision tonight on what's in front of you and then coming back for something else, we might consider that. I know he's losing his patience. But it is how important it is for you. Or we can take your decision tonight and then we can decide and reapply, go through the full staff report and everything like that for this particular exception request. So I suppose
we do seem to be a little unorthodox right now anyway, so can I ask staff, could we do if we make that decision, we are able to make it for a date certain, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if we are able to make it for a date certain,
okay,
do you want to come back with that? Yeah, why don't you take a second to explain this to him, please, and then we'll have a couple minutes. Well, let's.
No.
I'm very sorry for all this. I think that what we'll do is we'll just drop our request for the extra grading for that tonight, and we'll reapply immediately to try to get on the next available planning commission. So sorry about all that.
All right.
So just for some clarification, just so you understand, if you go that route, then it would be submitting a whole new application for a modification to the approved application, go back through tech review, go back through everything, and then go do a public hearing. If you choose to continue it so that we can get that analysis squared away and resupplied, I don't see a reason why we can't come back on February 25th.
We'll take that. Thank you, Mr. Paulson.
So, sorry, I'm not sure.
Exactly. If you have a question for staff, okay, go right ahead. And then Commissioner Mayer has questions.
For the architect.
Okay.
I'm looking at the section on sheet A-6, section F, and it looks like you do have a section there through the cantina, as you're calling it. I mean, I'm imagining if you come back with something that we would just see the section cut through the space, so I think everyone could understand.
We will have full everything, documentation. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Commissioner Thomas had a question, and then Vice Chair had questions.
My question, or I guess that if Vice Chair wants to ask it, it's the same.
Well, hold on. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay, well, ask that because then, yes, and then we're going to close.
Okay. My question is that if this item continues tonight, can we contact you to come out and visit again? We have okay. We were given your phone number, and so I just wanted to confirm that it was to let us in the gate. You know what I mean? Because now there's a long time, and I don't want you to be like, "Who's ringing my bell?" You know, like what's going on. So
it would be a pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. If there are no more questions for the applicant, is there? Okay. Then I'm going to close the public portion of this, and I'm going to ask if anyone has questions of staff. And I believe Vice Chair Barnett did. No? It's moot. Okay. Is there any questions of staff then or discussion? Commissioner Thompson.
Sorry. I would just like to say that I know that we are likely now to move to continue this item to a date certain, it seems. But I think that it would be helpful for the applicant and staff if we did make sure that if there are any questions or anything else that is like missing or not included in our staff report or the packet or the items received, that we would, like to know before our next meeting, just for the sake of making sure that we are provided with all of the information before I know we all want to get out of here too, but I think that would be helpful.
Is there any specific information that you're, aside from that you're referring to?
No.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion, or does someone want to make the Commissioner stop?
This is actually a question of staff. I was, looking through the arborist report, and there was one concerning statement in here on page 2. It said the site contains the site is already under construction and trees within the context of the improvements have been affected. And it identifies a couple of trees, specifically tree 179 and tree 190, that are incorporated right around this patio area that I guess got expanded without permit. And so it would appear we did not have tree protection measures in place, nor did the applicant. Because they state with tree 179, the concrete pool deck is 18 inches away with damage to buttress roots. This is a coast live oak. The second coast live oak pool deck is 36 inches on 3 sides, fill and root destruction, large lower trunk wounds. So it would sound like the potential is these trees may not survive, even though they're sited on the property. And I guess one of my questions would be, obviously, since this, the town did not have a chance to weigh in on tree protection, and we now have protected trees that have been damaged, what are the remedies? And this may be an administrative item, not, part of our planning commission decision tonight. But I'm just wondering on that score, what would we want to get in the way of assurances from the homeowner that what are they going to do with these trees should they die?
Thank you for the question. I did speak with the town consulting arborist, and his recommendation was that we look at it as it's been removed, even if they're not planning to remove it, and either in lieu fee or a replacement. And another suggestion that he made was to take in the in lieu fee and place a condition stating that it'll be revisited in about 3 years, and if they are still viable, then you could refund the in lieu fee.
No, thank you for that. And after having visited with the applicant and seeing the work that's done on that property, there's no doubt in my mind that trees will be planted, right? That they will do what's needed up there. But I just think what you're stating is a very prudent action. So thank you for that.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion to move to a date certain? Commissioner Thomas.
I making a motion to move item 2 on our agenda, which is consider a request for approval for site improvements requiring a grading permit, conditional use permit for a vineyard greater than 3,000 square feet on property zoned HR 2.5 APN 537-30-018, architecture and site application S-25-036, and CUP application U-25-0062 to February 25th, to a date certain of February 25th.
Do you have a second? I'll second it. How about that? Okay, is there any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Passes unanimously. All right. All right. Mr. Paulson, do you have a report?
I don't have anything this evening, Chair.
All right. In addition to their service on the Planning Commission, members of the commission serve on other town committees, including the Conceptual Development Advisory Commission and the Historic Preservation Committee. Do we have any committee reports? Commissioner Burnett?
Yes, thank you. So we had a Historic Preservation Committee meeting tonight. We had 2 items. One item was to take a home out of the inventory, which we denied. And then we also had a home approved for a second-story addition. It's very nice. And that was it.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other commission matters, Vice Chair?
Well, we've been notified that there'll be a CDAC meeting in February, but details will be forthcoming.
Okay, perfect. All right. Is there any other commission matters? If not, the meeting's adjourned.